Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnang Vande Jagat Gurum. So in the last class, we were studying the 41st sloka of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So we just discussed the very first line of the sloka. It was the second line of the sloka. We will now go to the first line today. Let us read the sloka once more and then try to find out what Bhagavan is saying in this particular sloka. That how Karma Yoga leads to the highest good. From various perspectives, Bhagavan is enunciating that how Karma Yoga can lead to the highest good. In the previous sloka, we found that Bhagavan was mentioning that it helps in a totally different way. How? That in our day-to-day life, whenever we do some action, there are two perspectives to look at that action. One is the objective way to look at it, and another is the subjective way to look at it. From the objective point of view, whenever I do a work, it may either be a success or it may be a failure. It can be a success or it can be a failure. And if it's a failure, then two consequences follow. That was indicated in the last sloka. What are the two consequences? One is abhikramanasha and another is pratyavaya. These are the terms which we found in the previous sloka. And Bhagavan is saying that in Karma Yoga, both are negated. That even if you're not successful, it's not that there's going to be abhikramanasha and there neither is going to be pratyavaya. Nehabhikramana shosti pratyavaya navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So what was the basic idea? What's the meaning of those words? Abhikramanasha and pratyavaya. So whenever I do some action, to get the result, there has to be various steps I have to follow. And after following all the steps meticulously, most probably at the very last step, I falter, I fail. Then what happens? All the steps which I have followed, they're of no use. You don't get the desired result. Just the example which we gave, it is applicable to any of the worldly our goals. The example of the launching of the rocket. You followed meticulously all the steps. The scientists followed all the steps. And at last, when it was launched, it crashed. Now, all the steps that I have followed are of no use. I have to start again from the square zero, from the very first step. So all the abhikrama means sequence. Abhikrama. In Sanskrit, krama means sequence. So all the sequence which I have followed, they simply shatter, fall off. I have to start again from the square zero. And another is the pratyavaya. That it was meant for some constructive purpose. If the rocket was launched, it would have acted as a geostationary satellite, helping me in all the internet activities which we have in the world. That's how the geostationary satellites are helping. Without them, we cannot think of these internet activities. The geostationary satellites are the one from where all the transmissions are again reflected back, which makes the transmission something global. Otherwise, it would have been something local. The way the globally now the internet is working is because of all those geostationary satellites. So it has a huge implication. But if the satellite crashes, then I won't get the positive result. In contrary to it, I will get the negative result. What's the negative result? So much of resource is wasted. So much of national property was used. Everything got waste. So there are two such consequences. One is when we meet a failure, there is avikramanasha and there is pratyavaya. But now Bhagavan is saying here an interesting thing. In Karma Yoga, there is no avikramanasha, there is no pratyavaya. You may say, how come? Yes, as per the objective aspect of the work is concerned, of course there is a failure, of course there is avikramanasha, and of course there is pratyavaya. But there is another aspect of that action. That is the subjective aspect. Yes, I may have failed to launch the rocket, but the experiences which I have gathered in the process of launching the rocket, don't you think it is going to help me the next time when I again start from the square zero? The experience I've gathered. Not only that, in the work field, while working with the others, I have developed a work culture to work as a team. Is that going to be destroyed? No. The samskaras which you have developed, are they going to be destroyed? No. So that's why Bhagavan is saying, when you are doing a karma, don't think of the result. Forget about the result. It is not in my hand. It may be a success, it may be a failure. If you are thinking too much of the result, your mind is clouded with the result orientation. So you cannot give your full focus in the work which you are doing. Though you want that the work has to be perfect, but as your mind is totally engaged in the expectations, anticipations, you cannot focus in the work itself. So I have neither the future in my hand, the past also is not in my hand. What is done is done. I cannot remake it. I cannot change it. And I cannot even predict what's going to happen in the future. Even the scientists, with all the scientific knowledge, with all the technological advancements, do meet failure. You cannot ascertain that, yes, with all my knowledge, I'm going to be a success. There may be a failure. Let me not think of it, because just by thinking of it, I cannot change its course. But what can I do? I can give my full focus in the present. As future is not in my hand, I don't waste time by thinking of it. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't have plans. I should have plans. Once the plan is made, now let me forget about the future. Yes, this is my desired goal. Now let me come back to the present. Let me forget about the past failures. Give my full focus on the present work. And that is going to build up your future. So that's the Karma Yoga. Through that process, what is happening? I am not result-oriented. I am performance-oriented. I am in the present. I don't dwell in the past or in the future. I am always in that present, trying to do the thing perfectly, neither seeking nor avoiding, by taking the responsibility. Jan sadhan tan siddhi. These are the Hindi proverbs, adages, very interesting, that Jan sadhan, whatever you are doing, however insignificant the work may be, don't think that I have to hurriedly do it and go and sit for my meditation. When I am doing a work, let that work alone be my siddhi. Means that's the goal, as if there is no other goal in my life. When I'm cooking my food, just to cook the food perfectly is my only goal in my life, nothing else. When I'm brooming the floor, cleansing my house, to cleanse the house perfectly is the only goal in my life. Forget God, everything. Why? Because with the same mind, when I sit for meditation, I haven't done any preparation. The mind, that vacillating mind, at the time when I'm doing a work, it is wandering in some future anticipation or in some past thoughts. With that mind, I will be sitting for meditation. And how can I expect that the meditation is going to be fruitful? So throughout the day, how I'm working, that becomes the practice for my meditation. That becomes the preparation ground for my meditation. And Karma Yoga speaks of that. Contemplation in the world of action. While doing your activities, don't think of forsaking the activities. Don't think of future. Don't be too much attached to the results of the actions. That God has given me the scope at this moment to take these responsibilities. I am the fortunate one. There are many who have the same capability like me, but somehow I am grateful enough to acknowledge the fact I got it. And let me do it perfectly, and there it ends. Don't be a mercenary that this much of work for that, this is the result I am waiting. And that way what happened? We become the poorest person in the world. You may get some cash by that type of thought, but you have nothing else. No happiness, no integrity of character. By thinking too much of your own selfishness, you are bound to try to fool others. When any country, the economy becomes tertiary economy, that's the evil of that system. You will find that in any country, when the economy becomes tertiary, what happens? They all outsource. The rich countries have outsourced. They're doing as such, they're producing nothing. The entire economy is based on service, like running restaurants, legal system. And there, know it for certain, as there is no certain job, each and every person wants to be skillful in language and try to fool others constantly. As if it is bound to happen. Why it is happening? Because that has become the structure of the society, that somehow there is no particular work. The one who is working in some industry, they know this is the product I have to produce and this is the money I earn. And in service economy, it's not the thing. Every day you have to search for your own clients, and you're bound to become a very skillful in your communication. But at the same time, you know that I don't know that what's going to be next. Whatever customer I got, let me extract as much as possible. And that's what in the last Mundaka Upanishad class we were also discussing. That becomes a trend. And that way what happens? We find neither we are at peace, neither we enter the peace of others. Because constantly you are agitated, constantly you are becoming the source of disturbance for others. There's mutual distrust, and the society, which is meant for integrated development, we find it is disintegrating. The disintegration doesn't appear in one day. It starts rusting. Gradually, the rust starts developing. And that's what we find. We again and again say, in the olden days, with these perennial values, which we have now thrown away, thinking them to be of no use, that we brag with our scientific knowledge, we forget one thing. The Aboriginal cultures, with all their primitive, crude ideas, the so-called primitive, crude ideas, were existing for 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 years. We don't know how long. And we, with the bragging of our all scientific knowledge, in 200 years is going to crumble because of our shallow understanding. And that's the thing Bhagavan is saying, that once you gather that experience and that you try to be at present, your mind becomes focused. There's an overhauling of your personality. Your total personality changes. And then you become a productive member of the society. You become focused. In turn, whatever you do helps the society. Because constantly you are not chasing for the result, for your own simple selfish monetary gain, or whatever, little name and fame, little position in life, little projection. You could easily outgrow that and can get the cash down payment. What's the cash down payment? You did not have to wait till your death to go to the heaven to enjoy the happiness there. We are built. God has planned the universe in such a way, wherever there is the diffusion of the ego, sublimation of the ego, instead of getting crystallized, gets dissolved. A tremendous happiness ensues. It's a fact of life. Whenever you have, without any selfish motive, have done some good, maybe not even as a in material kinds, just someone is in utter dejection, I go and speak a few kind words. We don't know how much that really has helped him. But can anyone say, if anyone has just that selfish, unselfishly, doesn't feel when he comes back a sense of satisfaction within? Can we deny that? Can you fool yourself? We will find that any time, in any way, whenever the ego is sublimated, I find someone sick and I tender a little care. If there is no such selfish motive, you're bound to get a tremendous joy out of it. Because the universe has been planned in such a way. Our genes are altruistic. God wants us to be an instrument in sustaining the nature which he has produced. It is a projection of the Lord. Why it has been projected, we can never know it. But once it has been projected, we are certain about it. It's of course God's wish. And as it has been projected, we all, as long as we are playing the role as an instrument in sustaining that creation by dissolving our ego and thinking of others, God has created it in such a way, you are bound to get the cash down payment. Immediate happiness is bound to come. Anyone who does it, even a small child, when he gives something, feels happiness. So this constant, cash down payment of doing things selfishly and thinking of others, when that becomes the trend of our mind, your buddhi becomes vyavasayika, focused. It's not chasing thousands of desires and being totally disturbed. I want this, I want that, and I don't know what actually I want. And at last I find I'm tired, I'm frustrated. And chasing the selfish goals, at the same time, I'm bound to fool others. That way I disturb the society, disturb the family. Everywhere we have created disturbance, within and without. So that's the second idea which Bhagavan is going to discuss in the 41st sloka, that how Karma Yoga leads to the highest good. In the previous sloka, he told that what all backslidings you don't have, what all negativities it doesn't take you. But at the same time, it should help me to get something positive. As in the positive psychology nowadays, they say that the entire trend of the psychology was in the previous age, in the previous decades, that if you're a normal person, the psychology is not going to help you in any way. Only when you get some psychological issues, the entire subject of psychology dealt with in bringing you from the minus to zero. But what about from 0 to plus? Why not try to go from 0 to plus? Something positive. If you have a garden, there are two things. One thing, you have to weed, you have to remove the weed. But that's not all. Just by remove the weed, you don't get a garden. You have to sow the seeds. So in the mind, removing the weeds has been spoken of in the previous sloka. That the negative aspects are taken care of. If you are doing Karma Yoga, you won't get Pratyavaya. Pratyavaya is a weed. Abhikramanasha is a weed. You don't get that. You have removed those weeds. But what's the positive something? That positive something is spoken of here. But when you culture the Karma Yoga, it helps you to become focused. And that focus will bring a tremendous calmness, tranquility in your life. So that's the idea of vyavasayatmika. When your mind is focused. So vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeh kurunandana vahu shakha hi anantascha buddhyo avyavasayina. Those who are avyavasayi, whose mind is constantly wavering. For them, the mind is traveling in thousands of paths. They're totally disturbed. And that's what in default mode we all are. As in the last class also we were indicating that through the process of evolution, So the entire process of evolution, what has happened? We have developed innumerable mental modules. How the mental modules develop? That's just as a microbe. When you put some nutrient near it, it is drawn towards it. So the nutrient, when the external environment has nutrient, it creates a particular response. I will be drawn towards that. If there's a toxin, I will move away from it. Dvesha, abhinivesha, fight and flight. So this stimuli response conditioning has started creating the modules. As we develop in the entire process of evolution, all the stimuli response conditioning, various stimuli response conditioning, has created innumerable mental modules. And we, at certain moment of time, when I'm sitting quietly, I find that it is so difficult to sit quietly. Now one thought comes, again another thought comes. Why? Now all these mental modules are constantly wanting to draw your attention. They want to be pampered. They want to be nurtured. So they're constantly disturbing you, assailing you. So that's the condition of the people, the commoners in general. Vahu shakha hi anantascha buddhya avyavasayana. And as they want to be pampered, and I yield to them. Now I am pampering one of the particular modules. The next moment, again, I'm pampering some other modules. It's just like every day feeding the birds. The morning, the birds come, you feed them. They come again. They all want to be nourished. If you have to get rid of those birds, you feel enough. I'm tired of this every day feeding the bird. I want to be with myself alone. Now you stop feeding. What happens? Will the birds stop coming immediately? No. You have made, the habit has grown. The expectation is still there. They will come the second day, the third day, the fourth day. Now you have to be very, very resolute in your determination. That in no way I'm going to yield. Let them come. That's the idea behind Jnana Yoga, the Sankhya Yoga. You go out of the society, totally detach yourself from all the perceptions, perceptual entanglements, go on constantly thinking that you are the self. It needs a lot of patience, perseverance. It go for long. Why? Suppose that example, the birds. I have resolved that I won't feed them. For the first day, I don't feed. The second day, they come back, I don't feed. The third day, they come back, I don't feed. The fourth day, they come back. And now, I again feel that I've developed that weakness. Okay, they're coming every day. I feed them the fourth day. So what happens? The fifth day, again, they will come back now. Again, the expectation has grown. So you have to continue for the fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, till they stop coming. So Jnana Yoga speaks of that strong determination. All the mental modules will be chasing Aham Brahmasmi. I am in no way in the process of evolution because of that ignorance that I am this body-mind complex, this ego. From that, all modules have developed. Actually, I'm not this. I am the Atman. There is no death for me. I am beyond that. And that Atman, the Brahman, got reflected in this psychophysical existence. The non-local became local. And from that, the ignorance started. I hearing the echo from the body-mind. I took the echo to be real. It is I who am saying I am eternal. But that echo comes from the body-mind, and I feel the body is eternal. And in that attempt to make that eternal, the entire biological evolution was going on. Someone behind is saying there is no death for you, but I find there is death for the body. So I try to conquer the nature. And that's how the evolution happens. As a human being, we have the faculty to realize the fact that I'm already eternal. It is because of the ignorance that I took the ego to be the real and tried to make the thing which is never possible to be permanent as permanent, that body mind. That stops. So for that, now you have to constantly persevere with that fact that all these mental modules out of ignorance which I have developed, I shouldn't yield to them. So it's an assiduous process. That's the Sankhya Yoga. In those society, there were two classes of people. When Bhagavan Krishna took birth, he was in this society. There were two classes of people. One who were fed up with all those rigorous yajnas, which entails swarga. They thought enough of it. All this yajnas may lead me to the swarga. Again, I have to come back with this limited result. I can never get eternity. I don't want that. They realize that they ultimately serve no permanent solution. So they retired to the forest. And those who were yet to evolve to that, they were just in the karma kanda. Bhagavan Krishna, what he did, that yes, you need not have to go to this two pole apart. You can still be in the society. You can still go on with your work, but at the same time, you can unhinge your ego. For that, the yoga which he is introducing in the Bhagavad Gita, it may be thousands of years back, but it is more applicable today. The Buddhi Yoga, which speaks of the Karma Yoga, it is more applicable today because now no one is there who's going to feed you if you go to the forest. The total social structure has changed. In the olden day, the social structure was different. When you go to the forest, there was a high reverence for that type of life. Throughout the day, you are busy with your sadhana and you come for bhiksha, people give you bhiksha. And now it is illegal. Can you go out and beg? You will be in the jail next day. It is illegal. You cannot beg. So this is the present society where you have to earn your living. Even 10, 20 years back, the society was such that if I felt I'm not ambitious, just I want to sustain myself. For doing 4 hours work, 5 hours work, whatever I earn, with that I will remain satisfied. Then also, we found that meditative life, contemplative life was possible. But now, would you agree with me that you go to the workplace, there is no question of determining how many hours I work. Either you work as I say or you don't work at all. You are forced with, you will find that from morning till evening you are working. Why? Just to sustain yourself. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says, Kalite Annagata Pran. Just to sustain yourself throughout, all your endeavor is gone. How can you think of that Jnana Yoga deeply in meditation? I will be in meditation and I just totally cut off from the society and go to the illumination. Can that be the general norm of the society? It's not possible. That's why Buddhi Yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, is more applicable nowadays than it was in those days. In those days, Buddhi Yoga was for the monarchs. Very interesting. You will find in the Hindu religion, though the Brahmins are considered the highest caste because they are always contemplating, studying. Kshatriya is the next. But all the avatars are Kshatriyas. Krishna, Rama, all are Kshatriyas. What made them avatara? That they were absolute monarchs. They were extremely busy. Constantly they have to look after the welfare of the people, the society. They cannot think, a king cannot think of renouncing and going to the forest. So they developed, it is the Kshatriyas who developed these Buddhi Yoga, Karma Yoga. The Brahmins can think that society is taking care of them, they can think of contemplation. How the Kshatriyas can think? A monarch cannot say now that as Arjuna was about to do. A king cannot do that. That whatever may be the result, I just simply relinquish the war and go and retire in the forest. The entire social structure will fall off. So there you have to be in the society, take care of your responsibilities, take the burden of your own responsibilities, but at the same time, have to be tranquil, calm, and quiet. And not only that, have to evolve spiritually. So that's why Sankhya Yoga, it's not that it is not a way, it is a way. But is it possible for all to practice in general? You will find it is impossible. Then is religion only for those who have somehow managed to just break the shackles of the society and go to the forest or go to some recluse, go to some retreat and spend the time there? Is religion only meant for them? What about the most of the majority of the people? Is religion not for them? Spirituality not for them? Then what's the use of that spirituality? The spirituality has to come down to pick me up from where I am. And that's what Buddhi Yoga does. That's what Bhagavan is introducing. That he says that when your mind becomes focused, don't think that, take care of the responsibility. Don't run away from it. As in the very beginning, we told that fear is an acronym which can be interpreted in two ways. That forget everything and run, FEAR. That can be the acronym for fear. Forget everything and run. That's what Arjuna was doing. In the very first chapter we found, that's what Arjuna's intention was. Forget everything and run. And what Bhagavan is saying, FEAR, face everything and rise above the situation. You can face and then rise above the situation. Take entire responsibilities. How it is possible? Through Buddhi Yoga. What is the idea behind it? That it's not the obliteration of the ego. That I am not the body, not the mind, not the senses, I am the Atman, and you obliterate the ego just by will force, just as the Jnana Yogi does by relinquishing all the responsibilities of the society. It's not that way. It's a transformation of the ego, the sublimation of the ego. In the words of Ramakrishna, there are two types of ego: kacha ami, paka ami. Unripe ego, ripe ego. When Keshav Chandra Sen used to visit Ramakrishna, he was a well-known orator, the leader of the Brahmo Samaj. In those days, Keshav was one of the most famous person in the entire India. When he visited Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna told that, give your mind to God, then Keshav asked, then what happens to my society, this Brahmo Samaj and all, if I am just like you, totally absorbed in God? And then Ramakrishna's reply was understanding. It was very interesting. What he told, this society is not yours. It is God's. What all activities you are doing is not you are doing. God is making you do. It is God who is doing through you. Just transform this idea of I. It is not I. It is I, that I is no more the one who is the doer. It becomes an instrument. As Swami Ramakrishnananda used to say, that when someone is to ask him that how is it possible that you do so much of work? In South India, all the mission centers which we have, the credit goes to Ramakrishnananda, the direct disciple of Ramakrishna. He did a lot of work in a very short time. And people were amazed. So whenever they used to ask him, that's how is it possible that you have done so much? And the reply was interesting. Does a pen say I have written so many books? The other idea is I'm just the pen. Someone is holding me. He is making me do. So that's the pakami. When you transform, you're not trying to get rid of the ego totally. You're transforming your ego. You're ripening it with the idea, I am just the instrument in the hand of God. Whatever I have is God's. I am just the trustee. Whatever responsibilities I have to take care of, it's not my duty. God has kept me in this situation to take care of all those responsibilities. The common example which we give again and again, the mother's love. If the mother thinks she loves the child, she is bound to suffer. She may say that I don't expect anything from the child. But when the child grows, even a single harsh word makes her suffer. Because though she is saying she doesn't expect, there is expectation. I love so much. Is it in return I get this? That's the way the child behaves. Why it happens? Because there is an expectation. But one thing we have forgotten, that so much you love, is it you who love? Really, you think in the entire creation, would you find a single mother which doesn't love the child? The God has implanted the love in the mother to take care of his creation. You're just an instrument. You're bound to do. There's no other way. Even the animal does it. So now if you just change that, your orientation, this tremendous love which I feel for my child, it need not infatuate me. Let I be aware of the fact this love is okay. I need not become a total heartless person by thinking all these are Maya. It is okay. God, who is beyond Maya, for what reason I don't know, is finding expression as the creation, and for that there is a particular plan. In that plan, the love, the altruism plays a great role, and it is being acted through me. I'm just the instrument. Let me do it perfectly. And he has given me a lot of faculties to deal with the situation: intelligence, rationality, willpower, all those things I have, God has given me. Let me use all those faculties, and seeking not, avoiding not, let me take care of the responsibility with the I totally transformed. It is not I who am doing, it is not I who am going to change the world. God has his ways. Even I die today, the world will go on. When so many people think, if I die, what will happen to my family? What will happen to my children? Does anything stop? You will find nothing stops. The one we create so much of self-importance, at last we find that even without us, nature takes care of itself. Nature, which is nothing but the projection of the divine. Nature is, there's two ways of thinking. One says the nature is inert, but Vedanta says nature is not inert. It looks like inert, but it is after all the projection of the divine. So sanctify it by seeing the divine in it. You see the divine in it. That's the deification. That's why in India, everything is worshipped. They say that they worship the tree, they worship the stone. In Kashi, you go, there's a saying that Kashi ke har kankar, each and every stone particle in Kashi, hai bhole shankar. What a wonderful, that you may say, what type of ignorance this is. Stone, inert thing, how can it be a God? Yes, if God has become the world, it is my limited understanding, it is my limited vision that doesn't allow me to see the God in each and everything. But the fact is, it is God. And everything is deified. You deify the entire world, see the divine in it, and your each and every action becomes a worship. It no more remains a secular, nothing remains secular. Everything becomes spiritual. It's just the change of orientation. Once the orientation is changed, everything becomes spiritual. Even the mother will taking care of the child. It is taking care of Gopala. It's not anymore an ordinary human being. It becomes the Krishna, the baby Krishna. When the devotee is worshipping the baby Krishna, they don't think that they are just doing some worldly activity. It becomes spiritual. It happened we find in the life of Ramakrishna. One widow came and she told that when I sit for worship, I have no attachment, but I am taking care of one of my nephew. The nephew has got orphan and this widow is taking care of the nephew. And now entire motherly love is on that child. And she says, she just admits, I am so much attached to this child that I find that in meditation, the child is a distraction. Ramakrishna immediately replied, why don't you take care of the child thinking it to be the Gopala? And there's a huge transformation in that lady within just few months. Exuberant devotion, where people were amazed to see. What's the thing? Just the changing of the orientation. It's not that she has to detach forcefully. Doing the same thing with the idea. It's the entire divine, the entire creation is nothing but the projection of the divine. I see the divinity in it. Seeking not, avoiding not. I tend to it. I just work it. Why? Not that I am working. God has given me love and has made me the instrument. I just relate by becoming the instrument. And there it ends. And God has made us in such a way, when you do that way unselfishly, immediately, a tremendous joy emanates. You get the cash down payment. Forget about the results. The results which we judge is bit our limited understanding. What actually is the plan of the divine, even through destruction, we don't know. Sometimes we will find in the long run, the things which we thought evil, in a way, actually helped to build up the society. All the wars and in the history of humanity, hasn't it made us more civilized? Previously, whenever any country felt like attacking and just can go and attack and just plunder their wealth and take the country just under their control. Now UNO is there, World Peacekeeping Force are there, economic sanctions are there. You do it, the entire world boycotts you. All these ideas, this consensus, these opinions have grown. How it has come? It came through the destruction. So we don't know what's the plan of the divine. We need not judge the divine by our small acts. Through all these actions, the divine's play is going on. He is sustaining his creation through both creation and destruction. These both are needed. We need not go on judging on those things. Let me take care of the immediate responsibilities which I have, and with the idea that I am the instrument of the divine. And that's how this you get established in the Pakami. To constantly keep that idea in the mind. It is after all the Lord who is sustaining the creation. It is not me. I'm just the instrument. So that's a very nice, funny story in Ramayana. Very funny story. When the bridge was constructed from India to Sri Lanka, the Setu, Rama Setu was under construction. Rama himself was surprised seeing the devotion of the monkeys, Vanarasena. The monkeys had so much devotion in their heart. They will pick up the stone, inscribe the name of Rama on the stone, and throw it on the water. The stone floats. Rama himself couldn't believe, how is it possible? So they were all in the camps, in tents, all around, just near the shore. In tents, the Vanarasena was there. Rama was also there with Lakshmana in the dead of night. Rama was not getting sleep. He was really perturbed with the thought, how it is possible. In the dead of night, he was sure that all are asleep. He thought, is it really possible that just by writing my name, Rama, in a stone, if you throw, it will float? So now to experiment, he himself went out. So himself went out thinking that all are sleeping. He picked up a stone, inscribed his own name, Rama, on it, and threw the stone on the water. It drowned. It was not floating. He tried again it drowned. Rama was totally perplexed. How is it? How is it that this Hanuman, these Vanaras, they do it? It floats. I write my name, I'm just throwing it. It is sinking. And suddenly, Rama, when he was doing this, he was trying attempting this failure. After the 2-3 failure attempts, suddenly he realized someone is spying him. He turned back and it was Hanuman. Hanumana was there because Hanumana always made it a point to be the security of Rama. When he got up, he had almost no sleep. He also got up. He was following him. He was just maintaining a distance, waiting there. And he saw Hanumana is waiting there. And now Rama felt a bit embarrassed. He understood that Hanumana has seen him, what he was doing. And now Rama confessed, I don't understand that when you write the name of my name and throw it, it floats. And I wrote my name and threw the stone, it sinked. Why? Now Hanumana is called Buddhimatam Varishta. He is more intelligent than the most intelligent person in the world. Buddhimatam Varishta. He had a tremendous presence of mind. So what he replies is wonderful. Well, oh Lord, how can this thing float whom you have forsaken? If you have forsaken something, it can never float. It is bound to sink. So as you are holding the creation, that's why it is there. It's a wonderful idea. So Rama, what he has forsaken, how can it float? It is bound to sink. As you are holding the entire creation, that's why it is sustaining. Otherwise, it cannot sustain. So it is not me. It is the Lord who is sustaining the creation. We are just the instrument. So that you don't have to wash away the ego. The ego is still there. It has been sublimated. And that enters in the Karma Yoga. So our only intention should be to please the Lord. To please the Lord. Nothing else. If he is pleased, the entire creation is at peace. That's what we say every day during the guided meditation. If he is pleased. When he is pleased? When he finds that his instruments are working properly. what a tremendous annoying situation it will be when you suddenly find that the laptop on which you are supposed to work, it's not working properly. It breaks a headache. Similarly, we are like those laptops which are not working properly. God gets the headache. To please him, to be the proper instrument is the only aim of life. There's another nice small incident. Holy Mother, Sharada Devi, one day wanted to visit Belur Math. So she came to Belur Math and she saw in the morning, this practice is still there. The practice is still there. The brahmacharis in the morning, because there will be a lot of people who in the afternoon will be taking their prasadam. So huge quantity of food has to be cooked. So all the vegetables has to be dressed. The vegetable has to be cut, dressed, peeled. Who will do that? So all the brahmacharis in the morning, they all will be sitting in one place. One brahmachari will be reading some holy book, the life of Ramakrishna, the gospel or something, anything. Others all will be sitting around him. They will be cutting the vegetable. So the words are going through the ears, they're focused and the work is going on. And nicely they're peeling the vegetable. Now, in the the olden days, it is always the female members who used to do all those works. The boys never used to do it. So now when Holy Mother came and saw these brahmacharis, these young boys sitting and peeling the vegetables, cutting the vegetables so nicely, she was so amused. She was so amused. She was very happy. Like a small girl, she giggled. And she told, oh, my boys can cut vegetables so nicely. And seeing her giggling like a small girl, so happy, one brahmachari, who later became one of the illumined soul, he was a very, very revered monk, Swami Jagadananda. He was a brahmachari that time. Immediately the way what he responded, the way he reacted is something wonderful. He told, our only aim is to please the mother, whether it's by doing japa or by cutting vegetable. You are pleased, that's what's our goal. So to please the Lord. Tasmin tushte jagat tushtam, prinite prinitam jagat. To please the Lord alone. That makes your mind vyavasaitmika, focused. Whatever I'm doing, the result of that work, if I'm focused there, it is going to be baffled by thousands of thoughts. But to please the Lord, whatever I'm doing, I'm just the instrument. God has kept me in this position. Do it perfectly. God will be pleased. That makes your mind vyavasaitmika. It helps in so many ways that in the last sloka, Bhagavan was saying that trayate mahato bhayat. You get rid from all dangers. So what's the danger? We will find that when Hanumana, in the Ramayana, the stories, if you take literally, sometimes, it gives us some enjoyment. It gives, of course, some devotion. But these stories are sometimes have some subtle meaning. We should also be aware of that. Then our perspective becomes much broader. But there's a nice story. When Hanumana was jumping over the ocean to find out where Sita is for the first time, he was jumping over the ocean to reach Lanka. Now, in the ocean, there were a lot of demonesses. So one such demoness was Simhika. Now, she had a wonderful capacity. What she can do? She cannot fly. She can at the most be on the surface of the water. She stays deep beneath the ocean, but can come to the surface of the water. But she has a wonderful capacity. What's that? If anything is flying on the sky and its shadow falls on the water, the Simhika can hold onto the shadow and pull down the creature and devour it. So that way it used to devour so many creatures which used to fly over the ocean. Now when Hanumana was jumping over the ocean, Simhika came out to devour Hanumana. Now Hanumana has the capacity to become small, minutely small, and again also become big, huge. He can become big like a mountain, and he can become small like just like an ant. So what Hanumana did, he became so small, there was no shadow. So small, and he went through the jaws of Simhika and escaped. So that's the story is there. in Ramayana. So if you take it as a mythological story, of course, it gives some type of excitement, as the children also like this type of stories. But what's the idea? The idea we get in Jung's this idea of superficial personality and shadow personality. You will find our ego makes our personality superficial. You try to pose what you are not. A young student in the school was constantly being monitored by the parents, by the teachers, by headmaster, suddenly feels he's free in the college. And he develops a superficial personality. Some movie hero that becomes his hero. He dresses like him, behaves like him. In the meantime, what has happened? There's a shadow personality. There's so many weaknesses. In the school, the parents were there to take care of me. So they were hidden. They are still hidden when I am in the college by the superficial personality. They have created the shadow. And now you can easily be lured. Suddenly you will find that you have fallen the prey. The bigger the shadow personality, the more the simhika lurks from it. They jump from it to totally devour you. All the drug addiction, all sorts of infatuations, which we find sometimes is disrupting a young life. That life could have bloomed, suddenly gone, is because of this simhika. How it happened? Because we were not humble enough to recognize the fact that there are simhikas hidden in our personality. They were shadowed, and simhika got the chance to get the hold of the shadow and pull us down. Our superficial personality was devolved. Why? Because that ego is too much flared by the superficial personality. How to keep it minute, small, annihilated? Just like Hanumana. Hanumana, how he could become small? Because always he had the idea, he is Rama's servant. He is doing Rama's work. He is there, his life is to serve Rama's mission, nothing else. That gives him the humility. That gives him that capacity to become so minutely small that no shadow is formed at all. He's totally aware of what he is, and nothing can make him vulnerable. And that speaks of Trayate Mahato Bhayat. The dangers of life are gone. The stories of Ramayana are wonderful. There's one story in Ramayana, very interesting. It is after when the war is over, Rama has went back to Ayodhya. He's sitting in the palace, in the throne, beside Sita. And Hanumana suddenly appears there and bows down to Rama. And Rama, what he says is something interesting. That you are Sankat Mochana. You know why he's Sankat Mochana? Why he's called Sankat Mochana? Whenever Rama was in danger, Hanumana was there to save him. Hanumana is there to save God, as if, after all, it is God's play. He makes himself vulnerable to allow the devotee to feel satisfied by helping him. He makes himself vulnerable. So whatever that Hanumana knows very well. So Rama says that you are Sankata Mochana. Whenever I was in danger, you were there to help me. But I don't want to pay back the debt. That was Rama's uttar. I want to be indebted. I never want to pay back the debt. So you must say, what actually that you have helped me, I don't want to help you. I want to be indebted. You must say, what's the answer actually? It is, what a wonderful answer it actually is. That whenever I was in danger, you were there to help me. Now to pay back your debt, you have to be in danger. And then I have to help you. But I don't want I don't want that you should be in danger. So I don't want to get rid of the debt. I want to be indebted. So I don't want that you fall in danger. But Hanuman is in danger. But even Rama knows he is not in danger because he has transcended the danger. They say that by his that orientation, the change of that orientation, that I am doing the Rama's work, Rama's mission, that doesn't entail that dangers doesn't come. Dangers do come, challenges do come, but he can easily transcend them by growing much bigger than the problem. That we find that when Rama is in need of that Sanjivani to revive back Lakshmana, the story is there. Lakshmana was about to die. because of the Ravana's arrow has pierced him, and he was almost about to die when it was prescribed that the particular plant, the herb, can save him. And that herb is available only in the Gandhamadhan Parvata. Now, who can go? Rama asks Hanuman. Hanuman in one jump goes there, but he doesn't recognize that plant. There's so many trees. How to recognize that? So what he does, he becomes big, this time not small, so big, bigger than the mountain. The mountain just, he can take in one palm. He takes the entire mountain in the palm and he gives a leap, comes back to Lanka. And then the physician gets the exact herb and saves Lakshmana's life. That's the story. What it speaks of. The challenge was still there. Hanumana couldn't, that mountain was bigger than him. The challenge was still there. And there was so much of vegetation. He couldn't find the herb. He became bigger than the problem. How? Again, it is Rama's mission. That's the orientation that gives him the strength. That I am doing Rama's work, God's work. That Vyavasaitmaka Buddhi gives him that strength, the power to transcend all the difficulties. The difficulties are there. It's not they has been removed. They are still there. He has grown bigger than the problem. Just in a classroom, when the teacher draws a line in the blackboard and asks the student, can you shorten it without touching it? All the students were really perplexed. How is it possible that without touching, without just with a duster, I erase it? How can I shorten it? Then one small intelligent girl comes and draws a longer line parallel to that line. Doesn't touch that line. Compared to that line, this line becomes shorter. So that's what your attitude can be longer than all the problems of life. When the Hillary, for the first time, the first attempt, he failed to reach the Everest. He reached almost near, but had to, because of bad weather, he has to come down. And then a huge reception was given to him. Because in those days, that itself was a big achievement, because none have reached the top. And in the reception, means he was asked to address the people who came to give him the reception. And on the backstage, there was a picture of the Mount Everest. There was a photo of the Mount Everest. So Hillary, when he came to the stage, instead of facing the audience, he faced the backdrop, the screen. And as if addressing the screen, he told, this time you won, I felt. It is, at last I couldn't conquer you. But I know next time I'm going to conquer you. Why? Your height is fixed. You are not going to grow, but I can grow. I have the capacity to grow. You cannot grow. You are very tall, but your height is fixed. I have the capacity to outgrow that. This time I felt, next time I'm going to win you. And that's what has happened. So this is the way, the orientation that can make that can give us the capacity to outgrow the challenges of life. And that's how we go beyond the fear. It's not that all the dangers will be removed from the life. They will be there as it is. For Arjuna, the war was still there. The one to whom Bhagavan is saying, you go beyond Bhaya. You can then think the war is still there. How come he's going beyond Bhaya? By changing the orientation, not by avoiding the war. By facing the war with an orientation which makes you bigger than the problem. And that is possible only by way of the Vyavasaitmaka Buddhi. Focused with that idea that I am the servant of the Lord. It is He who is working through me. Seek not, avoid not. Whatever situation He has kept me, whatever work it may be, I need not think of the result. Just do it with all the faculties which He has given me. And there it ends. And that it ends not only with a feeling of emptiness. You immediately get the cash down payment of tremendous sense of fulfillment, happiness, ecstasy. And that's what Karma Yoga is. So with this, we stop our discussion today. The next class, we will again proceed to the next slokas. So thank you all. Namaskar.